Namaste and Hari Om everyone. Welcome to today's session by Deepa Bhaskaran ji on developing mindfulness and focus through Saguna Upasana. We'll begin with a short invocation. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Deepa ji, may I request you to come on video? Thank you. Namaste. Deepa Bhaskaran ji is a student of Advaita Vedanta and a storyteller on the Itihasa and Puranas. She speaks and writes on Hindu parenting and heritage, and she applies the lessons that she has learned from her gurus to the modern context. She is a technology marketer by profession. Today, we are looking forward to hear from her on mindfulness and focus and how they are connected to Saguna Upasana. Over to you, Deepa ji.
Thank you very much, Lakshmi ji, and thank you to all of you and to Advaita Academy for this opportunity. I'll start with a prayer. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavadpada Shankaram Loka Shankaram Samasta Jana Kalyani Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidwaram. Namaskaram to all of you. The topic of today is developing mindfulness and focus with Saguna Upasana. Frankly, Saguna Upasana is a consummate method, is a consummate approach for solving many problems of the mind. But we will try to go and kind of focus on mindfulness as well as concentration and how Saguna Upasana can help us develop that. As you all know, the words focus, mindfulness, concentration, deep work have all become very common topics in today's world. Whether it's students, employees, everybody talks about it as a great, very important character for success. There are many, many apps for the phone. There are many, many books written. So we are in a stage where people are starting to realize how important focus and mindfulness are. And many of the concepts from Eastern traditions, including ours, have been imported across the world to solve this particular problem. Just to start with a little piece of humor, a few years back, there was some study by some set of scientists. They studied the concentration of different species, and they suggested that the concentration of a human today is lesser than that of a goldfish. Apparently, the study says the goldfish has a concentration of 9 seconds, whereas the average concentration power of the modern human is only 8.5 seconds. That's not very, that doesn't look very nice for the human race. And frankly, it's also dropping each day. So at the same time, focus and mindfulness are not just modern struggles. Millennia back, we all know Arjuna complains to Sri Krishna about the flitting nature of his mind. He says, Chanchalam hi mana Krishna pramati balavad dridham tasyaham nigraham manye vayoriva sudushkaram, he says. And Bhagavadpada explains also in the Gita Bhashya, the mind is chanchalam, as we all know, it's unsteady. It's sankalpa vikalpa atmakam. It goes from one thought to another thought. It's also very turbulent, and we all know this. We hold on to one mind, something in the mind. It's a worry or jealousy or desire, whatever it is, and it becomes very turbulent. We constantly churn it and churn it and churn it until it takes on a huge power. It is also not easy to overcome it because it's balavat. That's what Bhagavadpada explains, that it's so strong that you cannot feel helpless. after a point, it seems like the mind has overcome us rather than us controlling the mind is controlling us. It's also dridam, it's obstinate. We ask it to do something else, it doesn't do. It insists on doing what it wants to do. So Arjuna says, Krishna, it's very, very difficult to control my mind. It is as difficult as trying to control the wind, like a huge, a stream of wind. Arjuna is saying this, where we all know that Arjuna has amazing single-pointedness. We know the story where Dronacharya sets up a wooden bird and with an eye, and he puts it far away in a tree, and he asks everybody, what do you see? And while everybody says, I see the forest, I see the wood, I see the bark, and I see the tree and leaves, Arjuna says, no, I can only see the eye of the bird. So Arjuna is already at the pinnacle of focus and concentration, and he does tapas to Lord Shiva to get the Pashupatastra for several years. If he is saying this, what do we talk about people like us? We are, distracted. We say we are multitasking, and our mind is constantly, flitting from one task to another. In today's world, we have a constant onslaught of experiences, information, population explosion. Wherever we go, there is people, there is information, there is entertainment. The notion of binge watching and social media feeds. We are actually facing a very unprecedented time in terms of the information that our mind and body are receiving, senses are receiving every second. So focus and mindfulness are even more important than it was for Arjuna. It obviously, like I said earlier, it is important, and they are important for every pursuit, for a student, for an employee, for a musician, for a painter, everybody. However, for a sadhaka, it is very vital. And everywhere in our shastras, and all Vedanta shastras, more time is spent on how do you prepare, how do you gain the adhikara for jnana rather than jnana itself, right? So wherever we go, whether it's Sattva-bodha, whether it's Viveka Chudamani, in every text, Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya says, even though he says jnana teva kaivalyam, knowledge alone, a lot of time is spent on how do you purify the mind, how do you still the mind so that it's able to stand in this knowledge of Mahavakyas, right? Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvamasi. How are we able to stand on it if our mind is dragging us away from that knowledge every second? So everybody, Swami Vidyaranya, many Jnananda Bharati Swami, everybody in their texts say that impure and a restless mind cannot give us the jnana phala. We may gain that knowledge, we may have a samadhi experience, but to stand in that jnana, we need to have a still and a pure mind. And obviously, we know the Shataka Sampatti is Bhagavan Adi. He talks about Shama, obviously, controlling the mind so that we are staying away from all impurities, like the Shadrupus, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, etc. He talks about Samadhanam. How do you have a single point focus on the goal and not lose track of it? All of us, we are in an age where we start a project and 2 days later we drop it, or we don't give enough adequate attention to it. How do you stay on the goal for a sustained period of time? He also talks about Uparama in the Shataka Sampatti, where you minimize other distraction, other goals, and you're able to, free your mind and allow it to focus on the goal. So in the Shataka Sampatti itself, there are many, obviously other things also have a relation to it, but primarily Shama, Samadhanam, and Uparama. In addition, in the Gita, Sri Krishna mentions a value called Atmavan. And, this verse in Traigunya Vishaya Veda, he says, Nirdandvo Nitya Sattvastaha Niryogakshema Atmavan. And Bhagavadpada translates Atmavan as self-collected and vigilant. This is obviously mindfulness. And vigilance, what does vigilance means? We are not operating on autopilot. Oftentimes, we are not even thinking, our mind just goes, it becomes the driver of our car, and it goes on autopilot based on our vasanas, our habitual thinking. And we ourselves get into wrong thinking, maybe anger, maybe needless sadness, excessive desires. And quite often we ourselves regret it. Like, why did I do that yesterday? We did that because our mind was just dragging us, and we were not vigilant about it. And we weren't in a position, as we mentioned earlier, it's very balavat. And we did not stop and say, hey, I'm in control. I'm the master, the mind is my instrument, rather than the mind being the master and us as its slave, literally following it where it takes. Now, as Arjuna stated, this is our goal, but it's very, very difficult. But how does Shri Krishna answer Arjuna? He says he agrees with Arjuna. Samshayam mahabaho mano durnigraham chalam abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grihyate. So he says, yes, Arjuna, I totally agree. I totally agree that it's very, very difficult to control the mind, but it can be brought under control with abhyasa and vairagya, he says. Now, we all know what vairagya means. It's a common word in all Bharatiya languages. It is really not being dependent on things or people, external things for happiness, being dispassionate, whether we get it or lose it, and, be not being carried away by, an object or a person or a thing. And abhyasa also is a common word. It means practice. But practice of what? What practice is Sri Krishna recommending? And Bhagavadpada again explains this in his Bhashyam. What does abhyasa mean? In the Gita Bhashyam, he says, abhyasa means the repetition of some idea or thought of the mind on some object of concentration. So this is literally, like, I want you to remember this, a repetition of an idea or a thought on some object of concentration. So the first part is easy, repetition of some idea or thought. Okay, we keep thinking about it, fine. Now, what is this object of concentration that Sri Krishna is talking about? We can brainstorm this ourselves, right? Like, there are only kind of three categories. One is anything in the world. One option, or what is the object of concentration? It could be anything in the world. It could be something in nature. It could be a painting. It could be a skyscraper, a building, or it could be some work of art or music, or it could be some person, our child, a spouse, parent, friend, whoever it is, right? Now, a lot of so-called atheists suggest this. It doesn't matter. We can use it, anything to focus on. But the problem is, there are two problems. One is that in a simple way, even though you may give you a temporary concentration, maybe you listen to a piece of music or you stare at a very, very beautiful painting, it could give you a short amount of concentration, definitely, but it brings no joy. After a point, you get bored. Even the best of paintings, even the best of music, best of food, even your best friend, how long can your spouse or a child, how long can you focus on them? We become bored with it. So what is the best thing that you can focus on? The more you love a thing, the more we love a certain thing, we can spend more time on it, which is why we don't spend too much time thinking of somebody else, but we like to think of our child. Many parents, they spend a lot of time thinking about our child because we love them more. But the pinnacle of that love could actually, is not possible. Even with a child, there are problems that happen. There are, we also get frustrated because our love is always conditional with our children. Second option is the Nirguna Brahman. So the object of concentration we're talking about, first, it's anything in the world, any worldly object, person. That's first option. And I just mentioned that it's impossible to sustain that over a period of time. It causes boredom, but also causes frustration if things don't go the way you want it to. The second option is for an object of concentration is Nirguna Brahman, right? The formless consciousness, which is our own Atman. But we know, and the Shastras tell us that it is not available for perception by our mind or senses, right? So all the Upanishads say, yattadadresham agrahyam agotram avarnam achakshutpadam. So it is not available for our sense perception because it is the subject. Now, however, as Krishna himself talks about in the 12th chapter, it's very difficult for sadhakas to stay in that for a sustained period of time. We all try Vedantic meditation, no doubt. Many of us may be trained by our gurus in it. We try it, but it's not an easy task, especially as Krishna says, for those identified with the body. So klesha adhikaras tesham avyakta sakta chetasam avyakta hi gatir dukham dehavad bhiravapyate. So whoever, we are all dehavats, we still have identification with our body, with our names, with our roles. For people like us, it's very, very difficult for placing and staying with the avyakta Brahman, right? So it's basically very, very difficult. So what is left for us? The final and only option left is Saguna Upasana, which is directing our minds towards a beautiful, powerful, marvelous, loving, compassionate Devata, who is definitely the manifestation of Parabrahman for our own sadhana. So this is the only option left for many of our sadhakas as we develop our minds to then go into Nirguna Brahman, Nirguna Dhyanam, and staying with that Jnanam for almost all the time. Now, is this right? I mean, we may say, but it's Nirguna Brahman, Saguna, but Saguna is, kind of, Mithya, Jagat. So is it appropriate? But Bhagavadpada is very clear on it. And not just Bhagavadpada, many Advaita Acharyas, they are all glorifying Saguna Upasana. So in this context, I want to talk about two different places where Bhagavadpada defines bhakti. And it will actually give a proof how he definitely says Saguna Upasana is immediate next step, immediate previous step to Nirguna Dhyanam. So in the Viveka Chudamani, it's a very well-known verse about the definition of bhakti. And he says, Moksha sadhana samagriyam bhakti reva gariyasi. So he starts by saying that bhakti is the greatest material, the greatest samagri for moksha. Now, many people will say, how can bhakti be? Is it a jnana? So he clarifies what he means by bhakti in the next sentence. He says, Swaswarupānusandhānam bhakti ritya vidhiyate. So he says, meditation or awareness of one's own self is bhakti. So his definition of bhakti is definitely jnanam, right? So because he's talking about Swaswarupānusandhānam. So everybody is fine because he's talking about our own Atmaswarupam. But the same Acharya gives a different definition of bhakti in the Shivananda Lahari. And this is also a very famous, very loved shloka from Shivananda Lahari. Ankolam nija bija santatihi ayaskantopalam suchika sadhvi naija vibhum latakshitiruhum sindhus sarid vallabham prapnotiha yatha tatha pashupate padara vindadvayam cheto vritti rupetya tishtati sada sa bhakti riti uchyate. So this is a beautiful shloka where he gives so many examples to show what bhakti is. He says, like the Ankola fruits, which apparently, even if they fall far from the tree, they slowly move to the tree and get attracted to the bark again. So it's a very interesting tree. Like the needle flies to the magnet, like Pativrata's tree, who is constantly, she's drawn to thinking about her pati. And like the creeper that somehow it tries to find some stake to grow on, and like the river that flows into the ocean, just like that, if I put my cheta, my vritti, all my thoughts on you, on your Padaravinda Pashupati, so Shiva's two lotus feet, if my senses, if my thoughts are constantly on the lotus feet of Pashupati, then that is bhakti. That is what Bhagavadpada is saying in this particular definition. So it's very interesting. In the first, he says bhakti is when the mind is focused on Swaswarupa, our Atma. And in the second shloka, he says, in the second from Shivananda Lahari, he says, bhakti is when the mind is still on Pashupatehe Padaravinda. So if you use the mathematical transitive property, we can say that Swaswarupa is the same as Pashupati's feet. So we can say that, our Atmaswarupam is only the Lord. So he's the Antaryami. Bhagavadpada is equating the Atman to Shiva and any other Devata, obviously, where, Advaita Parampara, all Devatas are considered as Parabrahman. And it is a beautiful feeling. Now my Atman, which is very Vachamagochara, we cannot perceive, we cannot see, we cannot hear it, but I can see and feel and enjoy the presence of Mahadeva or Shiva or Vishnu or Devi in my heart as the Antaryami. So he is all I wanted to say is the Bhagavadpada himself is giving proof that the Antaryami is our Atmaswarupam, and using Saguna Upasana as a alambanam, as a like a symbol to reach the Nirguna Atman is actually a perfectly legitimate and a very, very powerful and a useful way to do this. So that is why obviously Bhagavadpada has promoted the Shanmatha. He has written countless stotrams on almost all devatas, as obviously all devatas are fine. They are a manifestation of the same Paramatma. And we can all pick whoever we prefer as Ishta Devata based on our bhava. We can obviously continue to pray to our Kula Devata, Grama Devatas. So whatever appeals to us. And Sanatana Dharma is fully replete with ways in which we do this with our temples, with our festivals, multiple traditions in each family. Obviously, we have beautiful altars in our house. We use the symbols of our devata, whether it's tilak or bhasma, or even our Mangal Sutra has Shiva Parvati embedded in them, engraved in them. So we have just our rishis, our Pravara rishis, Gotra rishis, they have all created a beautiful parampara where we don't really have to try hard. I mean, right now we are all analyzing and all of this, but this is a very natural culture, natural tradition within the Bharatiya Sanskriti, where Saguna Upasana is just built into our society. Everybody stops, even on the way to work. They may just see a Ganesha temple and they stop. They pray to God, and they have a little altar in their house, all festivals celebrated. So the mind slowly can get attracted to the Upasana Devata. So now we'll go into Saguna Bhakti and Saguna Upasana itself. So all of this was about why, like why, and how can we prove that Saguna Upasana is a way, is a legitimate way and a powerful way through Bhagavadpada's definition of bhakti. Now let's go into Saguna Upasana itself. What does it do for us? So Saguna Upasana, Saguna Bhakti, like I said earlier, is a consummate, complete method for achieving almost all the adhikaras, for Vedanta, ranging from, purification of the mind, focusing of the mind, uparama, as we talked about, removing distractions, focusing on the goal, and mindfulness, which is very important for, apramatta. Even the Buddha talks about apramatta a lot, because if you don't have mindfulness, all the knowledge goes waste, because right at that moment you need to be mindful. So Saguna Upasana is, kind of, and we'll talk about how Bhagavadpada himself, he demonstrates how Saguna Upasana is a complete method for achieving all of this mind management. It is the proverbial silver bullet. There's this word called silver bullet in modern parlance, which is this one solution that solves many problems, right? Now, I feel, and I'm not just paraphrasing many people, but many acharyas, but Saguna Upasana is really that consummate, complete method for achieving mind management. So for this section, I'm going to use several verses from the Shivananda Lahari primarily that show how Bhagavadpada values Saguna Upasana for mind management. So firstly, he asks for Shiva to clean the impurities of our mind with the invocation. So obviously, the Shadripus, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya, they arise in all of us. We have past samskaras, our own ajnana. We believe we are impure. We believe we are incomplete. We believe we need something. We believe we are, like Swami Paramarthananda says, alpagnya. So we believe we don't know much. Alpa Shaktiman, we don't have any Shakti. And we believe we need to, these achieving something or getting something, being better than somebody, those are the things which will help us be complete, right? And that is obviously wrong. And that causes all of these, ajnana causes all of these shadripus, kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya, desire and anger, greed, delusion, jealousy, all of that, pride. So he invokes, the very, very beautiful, and the lovely thing about Saguna Upasana in general is the amount of bhava, the amount of rasa it creates in us. It's a joy to do the Upasana. It's a joy to read the stories and so on. And nobody better than Bhagavadpada to actually bring that rasa alive. And he takes stories from the Puranas, the Itihasas. He uses beautiful upamas, the comparisons, the metaphors, and he shows how it applies to us, our mind. So this stotram is beautiful, and I'll just chant it first. Ma gachatvam itas tataha kirishabho mayyeva vasam kuru swamin adi kirata mamaka manaha kantara simantari vartante bahusho mriga madajusho matsarya mohadayaha tan hatva mrigaya vinoda ruchita labham cha samprapsyasi. So it's such a beautiful metaphor. You all will know the story of the Kirata, right? Where Arjuna goes to meditate on, to get the Pashupata, and Shiva wants to test him. So he and Parvati, they come in the form of a very lowly hunter and huntress, wearing all some cheap baubles and all of that. And there's a boar which comes to, they comes in, I mean, obviously it's created, but the boar comes and Arjuna tries to hit it, but the Kirata, Bhagavan Shiva also hits it with an arrow, and they end up arguing about whose arrow hit it, and then there is, they both duel. They are, duel, and then finally when Shiva hugs Arjuna, then Arjuna realizes this cannot be an ordinary hunter, and it's such a beautiful story. And so Shiva's form as the Kirata, right, the first primordial hunter, is what Bhagavadpada leverages for this purpose. So he says, why are you going here and there, Girisha? Why are you just wandering around for trying to hunt for animals in the forest? Why, as a hunter, there are many, many animals within the forest of my mind, right? Kantara Simantare, so lot of animals in my mind. Who are these animals? Kama, Matsarya, Mohadaya. All of these Shadrupus I talked about, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. All of these are constantly rutting and running in my mind. And why don't you just come and hunt within my mind? Why don't you come and just do your hunting here? You can kill all those animals, and at the same, you can enjoy the hunt, but you also can spare me from these, like wild animals in the forest. It's such a beautiful metaphor. And when we read the story of Arjuna, the Kirata, and then we use it here, it becomes a beautiful meditation for us. So we can kind of tell ourselves that, okay, there's a wild animal running in my mind right now. Kirata, please come and save me, right? So there are many, many ways to use this knowledge throughout the day to clean our minds from these impurities. So that is with respect to the, the Shadrupus. Then he says, and that is true for all of us, we all try to meditate, and, very often, just even sitting down and starting is a big challenge. And then, trying to extend, we're aiming for some kind of samadhi or some kind of a little nishta, it becomes very difficult. So he is also saying, he's like, for us, he's talking, obviously, Bhagavadpada doesn't need it, but he says, I'm not able to meditate. I'm not able to meditate on you. So you need to help me meditate. You are, in spite of, I'm trying to meditate, but I'm not able to do it. Many desires, all of this kashaya, the rasaswada, everything, all of these differences, they come, and restlessness, they come and affect my meditation. I'm unable to do it. You are the one who has to do it, right? And it's such a surrender bhava. So this shloka is upeksha no chetkim naharasi bhavad dhyana vimukham durasha bhuyishtam vidhi lipim asakto yadi bhavan. I'm unable to do it, ashakta. So you need to come, and why are you indifferent to me? Upeksha no chetkim. Why are you indifferent to me? Why don't you come? And because of my fate, my vasanas, it's not my fault. I have been born with these vasanas, and I'm struggling to meditate on you. Why don't you come and help me? And these are obviously the bhavas of many saints that, they want this union, or they want the samadhi, but they are unable to, and they ask Bhagavan himself for help, right? In Manikavasagar, in Tamil also, is a beautiful word, which is Avanarulale Vantalangi. Only if you grace me, I can meditate on you. I can't do it on my own. So it's a very, very beautiful sentiment. Then there's one more thing where it's very, very beautiful. Again, he says, my mind is chanchalam. Obviously, we know, it's like, can't keep control of it. 1 minute it's in, sitting at home, thinking of something in the home. Next minute it is in some, the countries apart, or it goes for some new topic. So it's all jumping around all the time. And we use this word called monkey mind, right? So it's like a monkey that jumps from one branch to another, and you cannot control it. And in fact, monkey mind is a common everywhere. Buddhism also used that extremely. And I heard from a friend that Buddha takes it farther. Somebody says it's a monkey mind, and the Buddha says it's actually a drunk monkey who's, is also mad, is actually a mad monkey, and he's also bitten by a scorpion. So it's like that level of monkey that we are talking about, not an ordinary monkey. So what does Bhagavadpada say here? There's a beautiful verse again. Kapalin bhiksho me hridaya kapim atyanta chapalam dridam bhaktya badhva Shiva bhavada deenam kurubibho. So he is calling Kapali in this case, Bhagavan Shiva again. And he says, hridaya kapi. That itself, I think we can all refer to our minds as hridaya kapi, the monkey mind. That's a beautiful word as well. So Kapalin bhiksho me, please, take my monkey mind under your control. It is atyanta chapalam. It is constantly jumping around. you please tie it. How do you tie it? You tie it with the rope of your affection. And this is the reason for Saguna Upasana. He's saying, if we develop affection and intense devotion towards Bhagavan, that itself will be the rope that will rein in our mind from jumping in all directions. So, like I sometimes visualize when I'm sitting for my Shiva Puja or something, I kind of visualize, the Shivalinga is like holding on to me. So there are some beautiful imageries here that can help us in our sadhana. Like when our mind wanders, it's like, I want to be bound to Shiva. So then your mind comes back. So he's literally asking him, please tie it with the rope of your affection. Dridam bhaktya bagdhva. So with the bhakti, please you tie me to you. So again, such a beautiful verse where he's asking. So Saguna Upasana, again, how it helps with focused mindfulness. Now, finally, there's one verse where he says, okay, all of these are big, mental gymnastics. I have to control my mind. I have to do that. I have to do this. I have to do japa, dhyana. Like Krishna says, you have to keep bringing it back. Yato nishcharati, manashchanchalam, tato niyam yeted. He says, bring it back. Whenever the mind goes, bring it. It's all difficult mental gymnastics. So finally, he has this shloka. Bhagavadpada says, all of this is too much. I'm just offering your whole mind to me. Whatever its faults are, whatever its distractions are, whatever its impurities are, I don't even want it. You take care of it. I'm not responsible for it. You created it. You take care of it. Now, that is such a beautiful bhava also. Kamartham dasyeham bhavatu bhavadartham mama manaha. Why, let my mind, I don't have anything else to give you. Everything is your creation. Let my mind also be. It's also your creation. So you take care of it, right? So just like you take care of the whole creation, this is also your problem. And that is such a surrender bhava. Like I have every impurity, but you know what? I can't control it. You only created it. You take care of it. And there are many, many lovely such verses in the Shivananda Lahiri where the Acharya begs for help with mind management. That said, if we had that amount of surrender, we don't need to do anything, right? Like very great Mahatmas had that kind of surrender. They're able to, Ananyas Chintayanto Mam Ejana Paryupasate, Bhagavan took care of everything of them. Now we can neither do that kind of surrender nor we can live with our impurities. So the intermediate ways, we have to put some effort, especially for chitta chuddhi, chitta ekagrata. Of course, Gita talks about karma yoga, upasana yoga also, but in this case we can just talk about our little effort in Saguna Upasana, and and many people have said, and many of us see through our own lived experience, that even if you put in a little, it magnifies. Bhagavan, then it just feels like, okay, I've started on the path, I'm struggling, every day is a struggle. Some days I'm like, why, how did I become so angry and all of that? But after we put a little effort, then we see Bhagavan's hand taking us forward, the Guru's hand taking us forward. So again, Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna assures us, right? Swalpam apyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Swalpam only. We are only kinchita dita only, they're saying. So they are not asking us to right away climb the mountain. They are saying, take a step towards the base camp. And once we do that, we find the hand of Bhagavan, the hand of our Guru, take us step by step. Now, what can we do in Saguna Upasana? And again, I'm paraphrasing many things that I've heard from my gurus, Swami Tejoganandaji, Swami Paramarthanandaji. How do we start? What can we do? Because I'm a marketer by profession, I'm kind of going into these stages. So stage one is developing some love for that Ishta Devata. As children, we all went through the motions. We did puja, and right now even I have my children, Amma, I'm sitting, I'm doing all of this, but I don't feel the bhakti, which is fine. But I think where we are as adults, we can start developing the love for Ishta Devata. How do we do that? I think it's just giving time initially, mechanically giving time. Kanchi Paramacharya also talks about it. Don't worry about whether it's there or not. Just give time. What time do we do? Daily read the Puranas. So the more we read the Puranas, Itihasa Purana, we start developing love. The stories start to matter. The stories become a lived reality. It actually starts applying. Of course, our prayer routine, morning, evening, whatever prayer routine you have, maybe a day of the week of that Upasana Devatas, Homavara Puja for Shiva, some Abhishekam, whatever we can in our life, countless stotrams to learn. But again, initially we all memorize as children, we memorize so many shlokams. But as we grow, even take, and many of us aren't that adept in Sanskrit either, mediocre knowledge. However, there are multiple works available now. So we can take the stotrams, try to read the meaning, contemplate on the meaning, and even if not the whole, even one shloka, like I pointed out a few shlokas from Shivananda Lahiri, we can take one shloka and just revel in it, try to make sense. There are many techniques that people are, the Bhagavadpada himself is Pada Adi Kesha, Kesha Adi Pada Varnana. We kind of meditate on the whole form of the Devata, Devi, Saundarya Lahiri, so many beautiful works, Vishnu, Shatpadi Stotram, so many stotrams that Bhagavadpada has composed. There's a lot of Trataka, staring at the Pratima of Bhagavan for several minutes, closing, and we find that Pratima reflected inside. So these are techniques that we can use. I mean, again, please do with some guidance. Trataka can apparently lead to some eye problems. So these are techniques available. Japa are definitely the easiest, as Krishna says in the Gita also. Japa will be a great way to still the mind. Wherever we go, that mantra can help us, whether it's Panchakshari or, Sharakshari. So we can use the japa as a means to also bring our mind back to the Ishtadevata. So what happens is, as you all know, the goal of Upasana is that Sajatiya Vritti Pravaha, right? Now we have Vijatiya Vritti. So our thoughts are scattered. They are not on single point focused on one thing. So a whole day goes by where 1 minute, like seconds, our thoughts travel from one topic to another. Now the whole goal of this Upasana is how can we kind of narrow the range of thoughts to one area, right? So we can control the mind to one area, ideally, eventually to Nirguna Brahman, to our Atma Swarupam. But right now, how can we narrow it down? So this is called Vijatiya Vritti. The scattered thoughts are called Vijatiya Vritti, and the single pointed thought is Sajatiya Vritti. Now, what happens when we start developing love for Ishta Devata is, at least for that time where we sit in prayer, or we sit and read some, some stotras, or where we read the Puranas, at least for that period of time, we can try to keep our mind in the Sajatiya Vritti. So it is one Vritti, like it's Shiva or Devi, it's single pointed on that. Of course, the rest of the day, we'll go back to being as we normally are, with all of the ripus, anger, everything. But at least we start out small, and in that period of time, we are able to keep the mind on the Bhagavan. Then stage 2, as we start doing this, and slowly we'll start developing love for that Devata. Now what do we do later on is we deepen that love, but constant japa, but also antaryaga, right? Even in Lalita Sahasranama, we have antaryaga, that's a beautiful, observation where your mind is, even if you're not doing it, Bhagavan keeps coming back into your mind, right? You may be walking, you may be working, you may be cooking, but we are able to find that little pockets of time where our mind can be the Sajatiya Vritti on that Bhagavan. And the more we do, that's better for us. So, and what also it helps us avoid is, we don't spend our time on needless things all the time. It has to be done transactionally. Okay, I have to do this work. Obviously, I have to think about it. I will do it. But if it's not necessary, no, I'll use that mind for japa. I will use that mind for dhyanam, right? So we are in a way, it helps in uparamas, as I mentioned earlier, because now we'll say, okay, why am I needlessly doing that? I would rather use that time for dhyanam. So we slowly, the periods of time where we have Sajatiya Vrittis will slowly increase, and the Vijatiya Vrittis will go down. Of course, we have to operate in the world, we'll do it. One of the things which I'm not sure, it could be Swami Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, he said, what should be ideal is, right now, we are full of Vijatiya Vrittis, and in the middle, we have a little bit of thought of God, or a little bit thought of, prayer or anything. But it should be the opposite. It should be Sajatiya Vritti all the time on the Devata Upasana. But in the middle, you come out and do some transaction. You do the work, you do whatever you want to do. But it's not, so the underlying current is Bhagavan, and the transactional Vyavaharika thing happens on top of that, rather than what we have today. Now, the stage 3 is very beautiful, because Bhagavan starts operating. I feel, first it is they say in Vaishnava Sampradaya, first is the monkey, it holds on to the mother, the Markata Nyaya, and then it becomes Marjara Nyaya. So the first is the Marjara, the cat. So it holds on to its mother. Then it's later is the monkey. The mother carries the monkey. So Bhagavan starts coming into our life, and they were here. You see the presence. You see, even when we take breaks, immediately the thought of Bhagavan comes. And I mean, I'm not saying all of us experience it, but I've heard this, that even in the middle of the night, you wake up, that you see that thought. The thought of Bhagavan is there already. So it becomes part of it. And Antaryaga helps in all of that. It's more and more Sajatiya. And, they even talk about this Ajapa Japa, where, you're not even doing Japa, but the Japa is happening automatically inside you because you have spent that much time. Right now, just like we have this Japa of the world happening inside us, we'll have the Japa of Bhagavan happening inside us. And then if the stage, so there's a beautiful, by the way, in the Subramanya Bhujangam, which came to mind as I was thinking about this step. Bhagavadpada talks about this Dhrishi Skanda Murti Shrutau Skanda Kirtir Mukene Pavitram Sada Tacharitram Vapustasya Bhrityam Karautasya Krityam Guhe Santulinaha Mama Shesha Bhavaha. He says it's so beautiful. He says, let me see Skanda's Murti all the time. Let me speak his Kirti all the time. Let my mouth say his glories or sing his glories all the time. Let me do his job. Let me be his servant. And let every thought of me be centered on Bhagavan also. Now, as Gita also, we have this, machitta madgata pranaha bodhayanta parasparam kathayanta shamam nityam tushyanti ramanticha. These Mahatmas, they are always constantly thinking of me. They are also always thinking of my katha, the stories. They are constantly talking to each other. That's the power of satsang. They're talking to each other about about me, and they are tushyanti and ramanti. They're stilled in it, and they are reveling in the joy of the upasana. So this verse in Subramanya Bhajangam is very appropriate. Now the stage 4, which is the culmination, is really the beautiful step where the Devata becomes the Vishwarupa, right? Wherever you see Devata, it's not just when I sit for prayer or in all my japa, but you see Bhagavan operating around you. Is Vishwarupa Ishvara now, and we see him everywhere and everyone. When you go out and see the skies, we see Vyomakesha. I'm talking about Shiva, but the same thing applies to any devata that you're, Ishta Devata. We see him as anybody, and even if there is an anger towards that person, we say, oh, he's also, that person is also, Shiva's child. Obviously they are Jagata Pitaro Vande Parvati Parameshwarao. So, and everybody is my relative, right? Bandavaha Shiva Bhaktascha, it's said. So a lot of these things help us in our life because we see Vishwarupa Ishvara, we see him in nature, in trees, Vrikshanampati. Even like I said, even little stotras here and there, we can immediately say, wow, that's Vrikshanampati. He's Gangadhara. When we see river, he's also, he's also the waters. Mountains, he's Girisha. In the leaves is Parnaya, Parnashadhyaya. Wherever we go, we see that, we can see the Vishwarupa Ishvara now. It's such a beautiful thing. Even if if you get a glimpse of it also, it's beautiful. Now the goal is to make that all the time, right? Sada, that bhava. Now, when we do that, when we have this the vision of Vishwarupa Ishvara, every action also becomes dedicated to him. So as Acharya describes in the beautiful shloka in Shiva Manasa Puja, Atma Tvam Girja Matihi Sahachara Prana Shariram Graham Pujate Vishayopabhoga Rachana Nidra Samadhi Stitihi Sanchara Padayo Pradakshina Vidihi Stotrani Sarvagiro Yadyat Karma Karomi Taddadakilam Shambhota Varadhanam. So my body is your home, all my pranas are your ganas. Girija is the intellect in me. And then whatever I do, right? If I enjoy something, that is puja to you. When I sleep, it's samadhi to you. When I speak, it is actually, even if I, whatever I say, even in transactional world, is actually stotra to you. When I like wandering around in the world, it is, my pradakshinam to you. And whatever I do in the world is truly aradhanam to you, right? And then that what happens is, now that we have this bhava, we won't do anything wrong. We won't say anything harsh. We won't lie, so there are a lot of benefits to developing this bhava. So those are kind of what I thought are steps. Of course, the pinnacle of all of the steps is the Vishwarupa Ishvara we talked about, but the pinnacle is seeing Bhagavan as our Antaryami in us and Antaryami in everybody, and then the Nirguna Brahman, and being able to kind of stay with our Aham Brahmasmi and have the Brahma Akhandakara Vritti. So that is kind of so many stages which I kind of thought as a sadhaka we go through in our lives. Now, what will happen if we consistently do Saguna Upasana? Bhagavadpada also covers that. He says, when we do that, what will happen? Smarari will come and stay in us itself. How will he stay in us? And he says a beautiful verse again, that the metaphors are just brilliant in everything. So this verse from Shivananda Larya again says, Dhriti stambadharam dridaguna nibaddham sagamanam vichitram padmadyam pratidivasa sanmarga ghatitam smarare macchetas phutapatakutim prapya vishadam jayaswamin shaktya sahasiva gane sevita vibho. He says, come and stay with in my heart with Shakti, with Parvati. Why? Because my heart, after doing all of this, right, after doing all the upasana and cleaning my mind of them, you yourself help me clean my impurities. You yourself help me meditate. You yourself help me with focus. So we have asked all of that. And now that we have hopefully achieved all of that, he says, my heart is spotless, Shiva. It's very clean right now. You come and stay here. And it's a tent. So my heart is a tent where you can come and stay. The tent, the cloth of that tent is pure white right now, because my mind is pure white. So so that is the example. He equates our heart to a tent. The tent has a cloth which is very pure now, because we don't have any more wood. Though very firm now, because I'm very, very focused. I can have intense concentration. My mind will not flutter. So he says, the pillar is very firm now, because my mind is very firm. And a very firm. I'm sorry, I think I lost. Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah, now it is okay,
Yes.
Deepaji. From the last
Okay.
1 minute or so, we missed your talk.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay. So, yeah. I was mentioning this. Apologies for that. I was
Uh, yes.
Seems like I'm having some problem in the internet.
Yeah,
So
internet.
anyway, so we are almost at the end. So that's where he says is Bhagwan is please come and stay in my tent, because now it's pure. Now, as with constant practice of upasana, we will, we'll be able to overcome all of the vikshepas. And I was remembering, this Pavlov's dog, right? So this dog, obviously you can train the dogs. I kind of like that. We train the mind with Saguna Upasana, and it becomes pure and focused. It also obviously makes us a very, very uttama adhikari for moksha, and the Mahavakyas will become our lived reality, and we will attain the Atyantika Sukham of moksha. So finally, I also wanted to end with same sentiment in the Bhajagovindam, where he says, Indriya Manasa Niyamadevam Drakshyasi Nija Hridayastham Devam. That's the goal. When the disciplined mind, say Indriya Manasa Niyamadevam, it's a controlled, disciplined senses and the disciplined mind, Drakshyasi Nija Hridayastham Devam. So we will have the Antaryami will flash, or we will be in awareness of this Antaryami. Now, this is such a beautiful journey with Saguna Upasana, and Bhagavadpada is proving very, very much that this is very important. It is a beautiful, because it's filled with fun, it's filled with love. The Upasana, even doing a puja becomes a festival, right? For us, flowers and the rangoli and doing the mantrams, singing songs, the agarbatti, it's just a beautiful thing for the senses and the body and mind. And so all we can say is Bhagavadpada has given us enough stotrams, enough guidance for purifying our minds with upasana. Otherwise, why did he write so many verses around for all the devatas? So we can unhesitatingly steal or borrow his verses. We can use it for our upasana, and all the meaning is available these days. So all we have to do is pray to Bhagavadpada for his blessings for our Saguna Upasana, to build the Chitta Shuddhi, to build the Ekagrata, to achieve Atmagyanam. So that brings me to the end of whatever I had planned. So thank you very, very much, Nitinji and Advaita Academy, for the opportunity to, not just only present or think about this beautiful tradition of Saguna Upasana, have the opportunity to share such beautiful verses of Bhagavadpada. At the same time, I also really thank so many lovely scholars have talked and sadhakas have talked on many, many topics. It's such a joy to be part of this yajna in a way. So I'll come to an end with that. Hara Hara Shankara Jaya Jaya Shankara. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.
Namaste, Deepa ji. Thank you so much. That was a wonderful session. Are you able to hear me?
I think some problem with
All
Deepa
right.
ji, and I think.
Okay. So there are 3 to 4 questions. Should we wait, Kotiji?
Yeah, we'll wait for 1 minute for Deepa ji.
Okay.
Otherwise, we can conclude.
All right.
Are we done? Anything to do? Any questions?
Yeah, Deepa ji, we have some questions.
Okay.
So we are just waiting for you.
Oh, sorry. I have a problem with my internet, so I'm going on my phone. So I can, yeah.
Lakshmi ji, please go ahead.
Yes, there's a very important question. How can we initiate career-oriented youngsters into this? Is there any recommended way?
Um, youngsters, and as in youth, if they don't have the samskara, right, if they have not started young, it does become very, very difficult because they don't have the habit. But I think for them, this logic, right, like, like what I said, how it helps them with the focus, how it helps them overcome their impurities, that is probably a good way to explain the logic behind it to them. And that's one way, but ideally it's better to start young, right, as we know. And I do some workshops, by the way. You can all, if you're interested to sign up your children, you can do that. The website is lifethehinduway.wordpress.com. Life the Hindu Way. So what I suggest is, we, right from day one, the first 5 years or so, it's purely the fun aspect, right? Look, so they are involved in the puja. You can get them to do some flowers or things like that. Then later, after 5 or so, it's a lot about the stories, 5 to 10. They will learn all the stories, enjoy the stories. The stories come to life for them. Wow, Sri Krishna did that, Shiva did that. So the stories, there is a sense of wonder about it, sense of adventure about it. And now there are many, many people who are saying, writing lovely books on. Of course, Amar Chitrakatha is there. Many people are telling stories. 10 to 15 is where I have recommended that they should actually do things. So they should do the puja. They should do the Ashtotram, for example. They should, obviously, by then they would have learned some stotram, so they can learn the stotrams. And one of the things I try to do at home, everybody is busy. Nobody wants to long lectures. So what we do at home is, after we chant one stotram, I ask the children to pick one verse. We pick a random number, 8, 10, something like that. And I ask them to read the meaning. So we kind of, it doesn't happen one day. So we just have if you have a practice on it, right? Like every day you do that. Every week they learn, they start, it starts helping them. After 15, I feel it's more logic that helps them, because by then they are full of doubt. That's the natural age. I'm not blaming them. All of us went through that. I personally wish I'd started all this much earlier as well. So we all go through that 15 to 25 or so. At that time, I think it's a great idea to talk about generally, how mind can, how very important it is to keep the mind clear and focused, and not get into wrong thinking, and how Saguna Upasana can help them in that. And by the way, I think even our definition of Bhagavan, right? Like, it's not some superstition, it's really thing. And also it really helps us build love and all of that. But that is a difficult age. I mean, it's, to be honest, it is a difficult age. But our job is to really sow the seed anyway. All we can do is to tell them about all of this. Show by role modeling. We can all do it, definitely, and they are part of it. Sometimes they only come at the end. Some friends have told me, they don't participate in the puja, they just come at the end. That's fine. We just let them see us do it, see us benefit from it, and hopefully they will catch on to it as they grow older.
Yes, thank you so much for that answer. There's one more question. What is the Sanjeevendranath is asking, what is the difference between Vasana and Samskara? Is Sama, that is Manovritti Nigraha, only for Vasana Kshaya?
Difference between Vasana and Samskara. I mean, Vasana is our tendencies that have come to us from multiple previous births, right? So that is our Sukshma Sharir, Karana Shariram. It's carrying all of these tendencies or the fragrances from our past. So we are born with that, and that is why we have different personalities, right? Even within the same family, we have different personalities because of this Vasana. Samskara is what I think it may be similar in a subtle way, but samskaras is what we build as we, right from childhood. So for example, we have a samskara for having, Devata Upasana, right? We have the reason I mentioned, I think I may have mentioned in the context where right now we have samskara for so many worldly things. How do we build a samskara for example, puja? That is, there should be it's not something on the surface. At a subconscious level, it gets built over time where you really enjoy it, right? Like, For many of us who grew up in very traditional households, we have a samskara for, oh my God, I cannot not do a certain puja. We have to do this puja, right? That is the inbuilt thing. It's a motivating force inside us that helps us continue on this path in spite of so many doubts or distractions. He's also asking, is shama only for vasanakshaya? In the Vedanta definition, shama is just control of mind, right? That's what he's is talking about. Vasanakshaya, I think usually, at least from a definition standpoint, it's at a nididhyasanam stage, where you are overcoming all your inbuilt tendencies, like that suddenly come up because that affects your jnana nishta. So it usually comes in the nididhyasana. But again, these are all very, we don't need to go into very strict definitions on this. Shama can also probably, Shama is at a mind level. You have not still rooted out that particular vasana, if you know what I mean. So we are still operating at the mind. Oh, my mind does that. I'm going to not allow it to do that. But vasana is removing that whole, that innate personality itself, that problem itself, right? It's really wiping it out. That is what they talk about in the nididhyasana stage, where vasanakshaya happens.
Okay. Thank you. That was a very detailed answer. Anjan Nandi is asking, from these sessions from today's explanation on Upasana, can we say that any offering to our Ishtadevata can be taken as Upasana?
Any offering to Ishtadevata? Yeah, I mean, everything, like we have a Shodashopachara Puja, for example, right? Where we offer everything to Bhagavan, or Panchopachara. On a daily basis, we can do the Panchopachara Puja. On special occasions, we do the Shodashopachara Puja. They are all offerings, yes. I mean, they are part of the Upasana. I didn't go into that. I didn't have time for it. But generally, like even Upadesha Sara, Ramana Maharshi talks about it, right? So, Pujanam Japa Chintanam Kramat. Puja is at a full body mind level. So you are using your body to do the puja, which is easier in a way. Your hands does do things. You're making the prasadam. You're sitting in a spot. You're doing, archana, stotra, and all of that stuff. You may be offering, all the Shodasha Rajopachara and all of that. So that is puja. It has a body kind of level. Japa, it is at a mind level where you're chanting the name of God. You're chanting some stotram, or that is at a mind level or a verbal level. And then, that's at a verbal level where you're doing some mantra japa or a stotra or singing. That is at a verbal level. And then japa, pujanam, japa, chintanam. Chintanam is a dhyana level. It is purely at a mind level. All of these are upasana only, like pujana, japa. The more and more evolved you are, you don't need to do the puja. Of course, people continue to do it. I'm not recommending stop puja. But we can graduate and to a more of a mental level to do that. And that's why even Bhagavadpada, I didn't have a chance to talk about it, but Bhagavadpada has a beautiful Shiva Manasa Puja where he doesn't even, and great Mahatmas are known to have done this. They don't even actually do the puja. In their mind itself, they're able to invoke the entire thing. They have, they're able to invoke Bhagavan, do the Shodasha Puja as a Manasa Puja. Ratne Kalpitamasanam Himajalaihi Snanam Cha Divyambharam. Bhagavadpada says, I'm seating you on a beautiful Simhasanam, and I'm giving you this, and I'm giving you Ganga Jalam, and I'm giving you all this, in a golden vessel, I'm giving you payasam. There's no golden vessel, there's no payasam, but Bhagavadpada is saying, I'm giving you all of this. And it's such a beautiful Manasa Puja. These are evolutions in our Upasana. I would say we should not skip any step. We should just do what is been advised by, the Puja Vidhi and all of that. So we should just do that. And then we continue to do Japa. And we do a little bit of dhyana, but more over time, more and more, the dhyana will become very powerful. That is the thesis, right? That is the hypothesis. And we all on our journey to it at various levels. So we should continue to do that. Japa, again, there's a whole science behind japa, what mantra to use, how do you do, and all of that. It depends on what mantra you get picked. There are some mantras which will be
very, very adequate for you, like Siddha mantra, there is like Sadhya mantra, and there are some mantras which actually won't work for us because of our own vasana. So there is a whole science behind all of this. But anything we offer through the body, through the mind, through our voice, and through our mind can be considered as upasana. A long answer to that.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I was saying it was very helpful for me as well.
Sure.
One more final question. By Hridaya, we mean buddhi and not heart. What do we mean by Hridaya?
Hridaya is heart. Hridaya is heart. Yeah. Yeah. Probably, we can even say the word heart came from it. I don't know. I'm not a linguist, but it does seem very similar.
Right. Okay. Those were the questions. Thank you so much, Deepa ji, it was a wonderful session.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and thank you to everybody for listening. Appreciate it. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.
We will conclude with a short Shanti Path. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. And before everyone leaves, just an announcement about tomorrow morning session. Tomorrow at 7 a.m. we'll have a session by Professor V. Krishnamurti on gleanings from Saundarya Lahari. It will be a very beautiful offering to Bhagavati. Hope to see all of you there tomorrow as well.